suicide. Heartbeats pound as we take the dive. Living now feels so alive. Heart steel veins glowing bright. Fitness gone in the dead of night. Dating game, we got the sight. Crushing finance, career out of sight. Man up now, we own it true. Breaking change, just me and you. Success stories everywhere. Living life beyond compare.
Welcome, everyone. This is going to be fun. I have been loving this Thrive in 2025 series. We've had so many great guests, and I'm very, very thankful to bring back Mark Daniels from Marksinspiration. I've known Mark for a long time, dating all the way back. What was it? Back even to the Elders Council before the Dragon Ship.
I believe
Yeah,
so. Yes.
it's been a long time. But Mark, go ahead and introduce yourself to everybody before we dive into the topic for those who may not know who you are.
Okay, I'm Mark Daniels. I live in St. Louis, Missouri. I have a YouTube channel, Marksinspiration. I'm on TikTok, Marksinspiration, and I'm also on what else am I on? YouTube. Oh, and Instagram, Marksinspiration. So I'm easy to find there. I like to help people, coach people. I've had raised a family by myself for about the last 13 years. I have 6 kids, 5 boys and 1 daughter, and most of them are grown now. My youngest is 16, and I like to share my experience, strength, and hope with other people that it may make their life a little easier.
Oh, I love it. Absolutely fantastic. I don't know how you did it with 6 kids.
It really wasn't that bad.
Yeah. It's amazing you said 5 boys, 1 daughter. You usually hear, I got 5 boys and a little princess.
Oh, no, no, she thinks she's a princess enough without me encouraging that.
No, so that's good stuff. And kind of what we wanted to talk about, we wanted to take an extension of what we were talking about last week, which was brain rot and how significantly it's affecting the youth of this generation. Because how many times that it's a child's acting up and it's like, just go ahead and give them their iPad. Just give them the iPad. And parents are doing that and becoming absent parents. And Mark, you've done everything except be an absent parent. I mean, I've seen many videos of you boxing with your children, right?
Yes.
Like, that's crazy to me. Like, and it's crazy. And what I mean by crazy is that you're still staying engaged with them. You're in great shape for your age, but just staying engaged with them and doing activities and being an involved parent in their life. We don't get that a lot nowadays.
Well, I was very fortunate because I kind of got to raise them like in the old time way. They raised up in a family business, which I had my business since 1985. And so as they grew up, sometimes I would take them to work. I took them most places with me because I couldn't leave them. You know, my mom was living till I think 2016. She helped out a little bit, but I still couldn't leave all 6 of them there because she was older. But they've got to go with me. And the one thing I'll throw out there while I'm thinking about it is more truth is caught than taught. It really doesn't matter what you tell your kids. They're going to copy. They're going to mimic what you do. I never pushed them to fight, and 4 of them have fought now. And the youngest now, he's boxing. He hadn't had a competitive fight yet, but he's fighting too. And I must say that it was easier for me to get in the ring and then just to watch them. I'm more nervous watching them. I don't know why, but I am. So it's like I really don't even want to go to the fight, but I go. But Henry fought this last weekend in the Golden Gloves tournament. He won the first match, and the second match, the first round was even. The second round, Henry won it. Third round, he got dropped. He got right back up, and then the referee stopped the fight shortly after that. So, but it was pretty. It was a good fight. Both good fighters. So I was happy about it. He was happy, so I was happy. But it's tough watching your kid get knocked down. Now I know how my mom felt. She saw me get knocked out once in a fight.
I can't even imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just being a concerned father, and wanting your kids to do the best, but then still, the nervousness of what happened. That's just being a good dad, I think. I don't think there's any way you can escape that.
But he loved it. He loved being in the battle, and I love the battle too. I love to get in there with him now. And I mean, there's just something, if you've never done it, there's something about that makes you feel like $1 million. Even if they get the best of you, or whoever gets the best of you, you still feel like $1 million. Or for me, that's what it does for me. Kind of like a high.
Yeah.
Last couple of days too.
No, I can definitely agree with you on that. Like, definitely coming out of a spar, it's just, I don't know, it's a different feeling. And that if you're a man out there and you've never done it before, definitely take a look at it. I think it's definitely a great way to expel energy, and it also, it just, there's something about it that's a lot of fun. But there was I don't want to lose my train of thought here. There was something that you said, lead by example. Let's talk about that, because you said, like, you can tell your kids to do certain things, but they're not necessarily going to listen.
Right.
So talk about that leading by example, and how you've kind of done that with these 6 kids throughout your life.
Well, I just try to live with integrity, or I do live with integrity and character. And that doesn't mean you don't make mistakes. You make a mistake, you admit when you're wrong, and you go on. You don't beat yourself up over it. You just admit that you're wrong about something. You try a different way, because they're going to do what they see you do. I mean, I don't drink or smoke. I don't have anything against that. I just don't do it. I used to years ago, but I kind of drank all the fun out of it. So, but then again, they do some things, like my oldest son and one of the other younger ones. They got to partying quite a bit, and got to be a little bit of an issue for them. But just as I did many years ago, before they were ever born, they went and got some help for it, and so they've been sober, about each one of them, about a year now. So they got over that now. Even though they never saw me do that type of activity, they did pick it up, probably from their peers. And a lot of times, kids, they got to experiment at things. But because they've seen me work on myself and try to improve myself since they've been born, they realized when they had a problem that they needed to do something about it. So they took some action. Once again, I didn't tell them they had to do anything, but they saw that what I do with my issues and my problems and my challenges, I don't blame people. I think we really need to take the word blame out of our vocabulary. Although that's my first instinct, is to blame. But I think, now how did I get myself into this? So it's just living by those principles, the principles of a man with character and integrity. And I have a lot of room for improvement. The biggest room in my house is the room for improvement. So I'm not saying I'm perfect, but I strive for that perfection, even though I know I'll never reach it. And I don't do that for anybody else but myself. But then again, that rains down to my kids, because they watch me and they copy. It's just like monkeys. They copy people. Kids are the same way. When they grow up, they don't know anything, so they watch their parents. Because for children, parents are like gods, because they feed them, they take care of them, they clothe them until they get older to know, like after 7 or 8 years old. But their mother's been gone for the last 13 years, so they haven't had a mother around. So I've had to be and I'm telling you what, I raised them good, but they did miss out on the nurturing and the empathy a mother could have gave them. Because as a man, I do it sometimes, but it's kind of forced and not. I give you an example. They get in a fight downstairs, right? So one of them comes up here crying. Instead of picking them up and saying, "Oh, it's okay, honey, don't worry," I'm like, "What'd you do? Huh? What'd you do to bring us on?" That's what I do. So occasionally I can pick them up and do that, but it's not really. I mean, it's sincere, but it's not like I don't feel it. So, but with a woman, she's got that a man doesn't have. So I really believe that it's best to have both parents to raise children, but sometimes we get in situations where the mother has to raise them, or the father has to raise them by themselves. So, but it can be done.
Yeah, I would say definitely you're the minority, because, like you said, usually it's when it's a single parent household, it's the mother. And, mothers are not, I'm not saying they're not capable, but most of them aren't able to teach a young man how to be a man, and
They
that's
can't
where,
handle boys. I guarantee you. Them boys got to be teenagers. They got up in my face. They did it one time, and that was it. Every one of them have stood up in my face and tested me and what they're saying without saying in words. Do you love me enough to stop me from screwing myself up or screwing my life up? Or are you going to stand up and take charge of this house, or can I walk all over you? It's just kind of a rite of passage, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I did it with my father, and yeah, it only took one time. You
Yeah.
know, my dad's 73 now, and I still wouldn't
Oh,
want to throw hands with him.
yeah.
You know, because I don't think he would. I don't think he would lose that fight. To be honest with you,
Yeah.
of course, I would never
Yeah.
want it to happen. But
Right.
you know,
Right.
that's why it's so important for young men. And you see now, you know, brain rot aside, you can almost tell, especially with influencers, YouTubers, the ones that go above and beyond what's acceptable behavior for clicks and views and think that
Right.
there's no consequences. And fortunately for some of these young jagoffs, they are getting consequences and they're finding out, oh, okay, you know, this country will put me in jail, or this person will knock me out, because they never had to deal with that,
Right.
and think that everything they can do is just, well, it's just a prank. Who cares? You know, you grab an old lady's dog and run off with it, you're going to get arrested or you're going to get knocked out by the guy walking down the road. And that's probably the best lesson these kids can learn the hard way. Unfortunately, they have to learn it that way because of the absent parents. Because
Right.
that's one thing, like you said, you know, lead by example. When a 4-year-old only sees mom doing this all day on the phone
Yeah.
or something like that, they think that's how life is.
Of
And then
course.
when they
That's what they're
find out
saying.
that,
Yeah.
and then when they find out, oh, wow, I can watch anything, I push this button, I can, you know, entertain myself with this device instead of going outside and playing,
Right.
that's only setting them up for failure because they don't really know how to act in society once they do grow up and they find
Exactly.
out that you're not a snowflake, you're not special, you don't deserve anything, and nobody cares about your feelings. And that's why you see so many, especially young girls, suffering from depression at the age of 15, some of them even suicidal, because they put a post out there and they don't get as much likes
Yeah.
as they think they should. And that's really, it's, you know, these are the people that are supposed to be the leaders when I get elderly, and it scares the hell out of me.
Yeah. They don't know how to socially interact in person either, because
Mhm.
everything is online. I forgot what the stats are on how people dated 20 years ago, how they met compared to now. It's all almost like 90% it's online now, but it used to be more in person like 20 or 30 years ago. These people don't know how to act when they meet you in person. I see kids come over here all the time, and half of them don't. I make them shake my hand. They don't know how to shake my hand. I have to show them how to shake because they have no father in the house. And if they do, he's not the boss.
Mhm.
So it's really, like I said, I see it a lot because you can imagine with 6 kids, I have all kinds of kids that come over here. And a lot of them don't, either the parents are both in jail, they don't have any parents, they're living with their grandma and grandpa or whatever. They just don't, some of them don't even have anybody. They live with their aunt or uncle or somebody like that, or a couple of them's in
Mhm.
one of them homes where they got some kids stay because their parents are out, whatever they're doing drugs or
Mhm.
just took off. And I don't
Yeah,
live that
it's
big
it's
of a,
crazy. I actually so I do have the statistics I'll share in a second to show the change um of what you were just talking about. But I found it very interesting because I was actually two different videos that I watched today. I watched one from Abba and Preach, and they were sharing an example where this 21-year-old just got in the back of a cop car during a traffic stop as a prank and then got arrested and had to stay the entire weekend before the judge would see her on Monday morning. And like, what are we doing here? And then on top of that, the other video that I was looking at is that 28% of single mothers, this was crazy to me, 28% uh have a child, or maybe it's not, I could be misquoting this, I'd have to double check it, but it's either that 28% of mothers with, I guess it's multiple children, have a child from multiple fathers, not just one. So we're just creating broken households. And when you have broken households, it goes back to exactly what you were saying, Mark, is that up to 7 or 8, it's so important to have the mother involved to develop that sense of empathy, sympathy, like
Right.
emotional understanding prior to when things start to like activate. And then you need that fatherly figure to really like set the guidelines for them to finish out that growth period. But it is interesting, like coming back to the dating statistics that you're talking about. And I don't know if this one is the most accurate, but at the very least, you can look at 1995 to 2017. Very few people were meeting online back in the day, and all it's done is skyrocket.
Yeah.
And from there, everything else, like through family, has dropped by half, which shows like a decline in that tight family structure. School and college, again, not taking it as seriously because that's the cross. Like online's taking everything over. And so when you're online, that's why when I do my dating coaching, I teach guys to kind of force that FaceTime before they even have that first date. Because the FaceTime is the first date. You need to have true interaction to the best of your ability without meeting in person before you actually meet them. If you're just
Yeah.
doing it over text, so many different things can get misconstrued, and you
Uh,
can't really tell who somebody is.
no, you can't. You can tell what they want you to tell, but I've had people tell say that the girl will say things like, I've seen guys come over here, younger men, and they're in love with this girl. They haven't even met her yet. They've just been texting her. And then a lot of times the girl will say, "Well, I don't want to meet you because I want to get to know you here on text." You can't get to know anybody on text. I mean, and even when you do FaceTime, which is the next best thing to meeting them, there's an energy that because I met a girl one time, I met her on FaceTime before I went to meet her. And when I met her, as soon as she walked in the room, she looked just like she did on FaceTime, but there was something, it was a feeling. And
Hmm.
I didn't like her. But I mean, she said we talked and had dinner, whatever, but that was it because so even then, even though she looked good on the FaceTime, when I met her, there was just some energy or something that so you really there's nothing like meeting in person. But I would say FaceTime's the next best thing. Texting is just it's not even yeah. It's okay to set up a meeting, but that's about all it's good for, really. You can't get to know somebody really by you can get to know what they want you to know, and that's it. That's my opinion on it.
Absolutely. And I want to ask you just like leading off of that. So when it comes to managing things with your children and them growing up, like my rule, and I was just talking to my girlfriend about this the other day because we're planning to have kids fairly soon here, and with that, I don't want my children to have like a smartphone or anything until at least seventh grade, and
Yeah.
she's like all for it too. So I'm curious, like, how have you managed like social media or electronics or those types of influences in your children's life growing up?
Well, I don't think any of them had a phone until they were probably, let me see, 15 or 16 or something like that. I'm not sure. Kevin might have had one earlier, but the older ones didn't. So, and of course, we got computers here, but I keep an eye on it. I've really never had much trouble with it because we have such a, our family's pretty close because we've had to go through some hard times in the last 13 years. So it really isn't, I've never really known it to be a distraction here where I thought, man, it's all they do is they're on the phone, they don't talk. They're not, and my boys have no trouble. They have a lot of girls, I would say girls after them. So they have no trouble socializing, going out. And my oldest son, he's got the gift of gab, somewhat like myself. Henry, he's the manager of my, I got him as the manager of my company, and he's really good with people too. And I get a lot of compliments about how they're act educated and they talk to people. And so now Kevin's the youngest, but he's the quietest out of all of them. But I don't really believe it has anything to do with the social media. Um, but we haven't had much. I haven't had much trouble with that, or it's never been really an issue. We have all those things, but we don't have TV here. But of course, if we want to watch a movie or something, we'll get one up on Amazon. Yeah, we haven't had TV for probably 12, 13 years. So I
Wow,
get
that's
on them
great.
occasion.
That's so
Yeah.
different. That's crazy to think about.
But we got the phones. If you want to watch a movie, we can get one up on the thing. But I grew up with TV, and I don't watch the news, and my kids really don't watch the news either. So I just think I just think the news is like anyway. You're better off not to watch it. If something's important, I hear about it. I don't need to know. There's nothing I can do about half the stuff anyway. And the news is not the normal. The normal things and the more normal is the good in the world. The abnormal is the bad, and that's what makes the news. I mean, really,
Yeah.
it is. People say the world's going to hell. Well, actually, if you figure out how many percentage of people are at war in the world compared to the population, it's pretty small. But the news magnifies everything so much, and I don't need to be distracted by that. Feeding your mind with the news is like eating bad food. Of course, we have a lot of people in the U.S. that do that, but why would I want to put that garbage into my head?
Yeah,
Mm.
especially nowadays, because all news seems to be centered around government, and it depends on which channel you watch. It's going to be
Exactly.
completely one way or completely the other. It's not, there's no in between anymore. And like me growing up, watching the news, it was okay. Today in LA, there was a robbery or there was a fire in Virginia. You got actually current events, not the government did this today, and this is what Trump's doing. This is what Elon Musk is doing. And depending on what channel you watch, it's either doing great things or doing horrible things. There's
Exactly.
no in between.
Very
And I think,
biased.
yeah, it's very biased. And unfortunately, I remember growing up, I'm a product of the 80s. I was born in 78. So I consider myself a Gen X. But growing up, I remember my mom, my dad, my family, we had the president, whether it be Reagan or Bush, but it was not all about that. Nobody, the president was who they were, but everybody lived their life with not having government shoved down their throat.
Right.
And to me, honestly, it was a better time back then because people didn't hate each other because of their political affiliation.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you see it in your kids, as because they're right at that turning point of young men to adults, that if it's really bothering them or it's really as bad as it is as for an adult, that the political divide is really shaping their friendships or shaping the way they view the government or view the world. Have you noticed that, or is it kind of
they have some friends that are for the other party, but they don't care. I mean, they got their opinions, of course, like I do, but I don't care who in the hell you like. It does, I mean, I got a neighbor up there in Hannibal. He moved to Canada probably because Trump got in. I'm not sure, but I mean, that's okay with me. I grew up in a time where we didn't hate each other like they do now. They don't want to talk to you. They think you're a bad person because of. I lost I guess he was a friend in the last thing because of who I was for. And it's like, come on, man. It's like, what does that matter? I don't know, but who's fueled that? The media has fueled that.
Yeah.
Look at the division we have now. Where does that come from? The media is fueling that division to get everybody. What's it say? United we stand, divided we fall. So who's behind? We could go down a rabbit hole there. We won't. But who's behind that and why? Somebody's creating this and fueling this, but it's not for your benefit or my benefit or HUD's benefit. It's for a benefit to somebody else. So that's why I say, if you're not feeding your own mind with what you desire, somebody else is feeding it with their agenda. So you have a choice. I have a choice what I let in here. But most people on autopilot, they don't even think about it. They just let that, and I tell you, it's everywhere. You go to the airports, it's hard to get away from it. Gas stations down the pump, it's like I got to go set my van so I don't listen to, but you can stop that. You have power over that. You can cut that stuff out. But most people don't. They don't realize, even though they're talking to Joe here and this is going in here, that's getting in their subconscious mind, and that influences them. I mean, this last thing that started in 2020, that deal there, everywhere you went was the same message over and over and over. Okay. You can do the same thing with auto suggestion. You can program yourself like that. So even though I think that was a bad use of it, the positive side is if it worked well there, which it did, as we could see what happened to the world and the people in the world, you can use that yourself. The reason most people don't, and they don't think it works, because they're not persistent as the people that know how it works were. I mean, that stuff went on over and over, the same message for years, and it works. So that's the positive side of what they did. You can use that to make yourself into whoever you want to be and have whatever you want.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point, and the example that you're setting with your kids, I think is great as well. Like not having the TV in the house, and like, sure, if we're gonna sit down and watch a movie, like do that every once in a while, but that just means that they're actually like going outside and touching grass, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I
they
think
do.
that's so important. It's a lost, oh man, it's such a lost thing. And I'm just so worried about the future. Um, not in the way that I'm going to raise my family, because I want my children to experience a lot of the beautiful things in the world that I did experience. But everybody now, it just is becoming way too lazy on just give the kid the iPad, just do this, just do that. Like, I don't want to deal with it. All right, if you don't want to deal with it, then why'd you have a kid to begin with?
Yeah, it's an easier, softer way. They don't want the responsibility to pass off to. And so who's raising that kid? Besides the government and the school, whatever that message is. And these kids' minds, as we said, are, the first 7 years is called the impression period. And we've all seen kids, little kids, I'll give them 2 or 3 years old, maybe 1 year old, playing with mama's phone, hitting this button and that. I mean, so what's going in there? And it goes right in there too. They don't have the capability to discern true from false or what's good and bad like you do after a certain age.
Yeah, and the thing about it too, like parents nowadays, they don't understand the brain rot that they're creating for their children. And a lot of like parenting styles, like growing up, my dad wasn't my friend. He was dad. And at the time, yeah, some of it, was, I didn't quite understand it, Now, don't get me wrong, my dad wasn't a bad guy, but he didn't let shit slide. He made the rules, especially because I'm a Nintendo guy, stuff like that. I couldn't play it all the time. And he didn't negotiate with me like, well, if you clean your room, you can get this. No, if he said, turn it off, I turned it off. And I think it is non-existent nowadays, where parents are so afraid to hurt their kids' feelings or make their kid mad that they miss out on the parenting aspect. And they just, for one, they want to treat their 10-year-old like they're equal to the adults. And that gives this kid a sense of entitlement that, oh, I'm just as good as you. I'm on your same level. And that only hurts them later on in life when they realize that there is a hierarchy, that parents are parents, you are a child.
Yes.
And the kids, it's more confusing to them later on in life to realize, holy shit, okay, now I'm not the most important thing. The world doesn't revolve around me, when the parents had brought them up like that. And changing that, I don't even know the route we take, because we talked about this during the Brain Rock show is, if you're going to give your kid an iPad, well, you started off from day one that you get an hour, or you get this amount of time, or you can watch this type of stuff or play this type of game. Because if you give them free reign for a year and then you try to rein that back and start setting rules at that point, that's when you get the kids throwing a temper tantrum. And we had a story of a 12-year-old kid. His mom took his phone away from him, and the kid destroyed the house. And when I say destroyed the house, he broke the granite countertop. He toppled over the refrigerator. And unfortunately, it wasn't that kid's fault, because he was just acting out in a way that he thought would get his phone back.
Yeah, where was the father? Was there a father in the home, or?
No, there wasn't, because they did an interview with the mom, single mom, African American, and no, there was no talk about the father stepping in to help out. So,
so what happens when these kids grow up? This is what happens. Now, I did a lot of things wrong when I got to be teenager, but I was afraid of the police. I had respect for them. Now, what happens to these kids? They grow up, and like you said, the girl that jumped in the back of a cop car. They have no respect for the police, no fear of the police, because they had no discipline, no fear of a higher authority in their home. And so then that's what happens to them when they go out in the real world. They do things, and then they get in trouble, and they wonder why, but they didn't have the structured discipline as they grew up because the parents were afraid to hurt their feelings or whatever it was. It's like when your kid goes out into the street, you tell him to quit going out there, but if he goes again, you give him a whooping, a spanking. You're going to hurt his butt, but that's not going to be near as bad if he gets run over by a car. Because kids at the age of 2 years old will defy their parents. They just do. They want to see how far they can push you. Now, and I'm sorry to say, but the only thing they understand a lot of times is a good swat on the butt. I mean, when I grew up, I got the black and blue strap marks on my legs as well as all the neighbors around there. So our fathers were being fathers. Nowadays, you can't do that because they'll come take your kids away. And I've had my run-ins with the DFS. I had a judge tell me once that don't you ever take that belt and whip the kids again. And I didn't leave any marks on one of my kids. This is a long time ago. My oldest daughter. But now with that being said, I did have the police take one of my sons, got him out after curfew, and they told me to take him home and strap him, and that's exactly what I did.
There you go.
Direction. So, and also one of them called the cops on me. It's the same one too. He called the cops on me one time because I wouldn't let him go out. See, they learn this stuff from school in different places. The cop came in over and chewed his butt out for even doing something like that. So I was fortunate though that I didn't get a woman cop because more than likely she might not have been. Nothing against women, but they're different. They think more emotionally. But anyway, this cop put my son in his place, and that son and my oldest son, I kicked them both out when they wouldn't. They got to be. He was 20, and the mother was 19 or 20 because they wouldn't work. And now one of them works for my company and been working with me for a couple of years. And the other one, he's not living here now, but he's got a job and he's working. He came by and said, we have a good relationship, but you got to set some that's not easy to do. I don't want to make them leave. But look, here's the deal. You got to provide service. If I didn't go to work and do what I was supposed to do, well, you wouldn't have a home. Wouldn't have all this stuff. You couldn't eat at McDonald's. You couldn't eat at Hardee's. You couldn't buy stuff at Walmart if everybody didn't provide service. You have to provide service. And this is something I see a lot in our society today is parents letting their kids stay at home and not do anything, just lay around, not work, and they're still raising them. They're 25, 27 years old, and the parents are letting them stay home and I guess mooch off of them or whatever you call it. I think that's a common thing too.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely crazy, and it's funny. I just want to say this. It's funny, like how you describe that, like the beatings, the whoopings. I don't want to say beatings, but like the whoopings and the belt.
Yeah.
Because it's funny because my dad, although he won't admit it and he doesn't really understand it, he was somewhat absent growing up. My dad is an absolutely amazing person. I love him to death and I respect the hell out of him. But he just worked so hard to make everything else work without realizing how my mother was raising us. And so I'll never forget like the one time that my mom wanted to take the belt to me. Because I think my dad took it a couple times, but I deserved it. But when my mom did it, I faked that it hurt so bad that she just like did it lightly and then just like left it as it was. And she was like, just wait till your father gets home. And there was no actual punishment. And I learned how to just completely manipulate the situation.
Right.
And I think that's the difference. And that's why it's so important to have that balance, that yin and yang between the mother and the father, if you can, when raising the kids, because the father does need to be the stern one. And I don't know why we threw it all aside, like not to say that, like, because I don't even view it as hitting your kids. It's like kind of like giving a little smack to your dog's nose when they're doing something wrong. There's nothing wrong with that. Like I don't understand where that's been lost, but I think it's so important to have that sternness. And nobody wants to have that sternness, but it's just part about being a father.
Well, yeah, I mean, in my state, you can spank as long as you don't leave a mark. So I don't leave marks, and I don't do it. They're mostly grown now, so we don't. But yeah, you got to be careful how you do it. And I was always concerned about, you got to be careful. You don't want to leave a red mark if they go to school, and then somebody say something be a big problem. So, but yeah, spare the rod, spoil the child. No, I don't believe in beating kids or punish them and treating them like crap. But my kids know I love them, and when I did, what's the old thing? It's going to hurt me worse than it does you. That's true. I actually probably didn't spank them as much as I should have because I just don't like to do it. I just I just didn't like to do it, but I did do it sometimes for their own good. I mean, otherwise they're not going to learn anything. They'll lose respect for you, and that's what's lacking. Not just spankings, of course. That's not all there is to it, but the authority, the male authority in the house is lacking because you can walk in a room of kids and a woman can walk in there and try to get them to quiet down. And the man says the same thing and those kids will shut up. There's just something about a man that they have more respect for and listen to more than they do a woman. I mean, we've heard the old thing. I heard it. Wait till your dad gets home. Yeah. I've heard that one.
All my
fear
mom
of God. The fear of God gets into you when you hear that.
Yeah, but even spankings aside, and that type of punishment, you don't see like the manual labor. Like I remember when I would get in trouble, I knew that Saturday when all my friends were out riding bikes and going around the neighborhood, I wasn't going to be doing that. My dad, even though we had an acre and a half with a riding lawnmower, I was push mowing. And that was my punishment. Manual labor in August in Florida, out there, but to me, not only was it getting something productive done as cutting the grass, that was a form of punishment that my dad wasn't doing it to hurt me, but I screwed up and that was my punishment. And punishments is, especially for kids nowadays, it's non-existent. You're grounded, go to your room where you got a computer, a laptop, an iPad, your video game, and then you take those away from them and then they destroy the house. There's something different about the way parents raise their kids nowadays. A lot of parents, not all parents, but something we were talking about earlier, when kids are raised by a single mom, unfortunately, the higher probability that they're going to go to jail, that they're going to end up a life of crime type thing is far different when kids are raised by their father. Up until about the 1950s or 60s, if a parents got divorced, which is few and far between back then,
it was
pretty much a given. The kids would go with the father because the father was the one that worked. The father was the one that provided. And I want to say probably 70s or 80s, the feminist movement, I don't know what changed that, but now the courts have 180'd on that. And it's usually almost all the time the mom is going to get custody. And
unless
then
she's an axe murderer.
Unless she's in jail. And the bad part about that is now the father's going to have to pay child support. So his quality of life has went down. The mom with 3 kids for like 2 different dads can't work. So she has to live off the government. And so now everybody's life has been downgraded because of that, because of the court system. A lot of people don't understand when you say that the 3 ways, especially here in the West, the American dream, 3 ways to stay out of poverty is graduate from high school, get a job, and do not have kids out of wedlock. And a lot of people nowadays, that 3rd one, they don't understand. What do you mean by that? Well, just like I was just saying, okay, you have kids out of wedlock and when you're not staying together, okay, now the dad's got to pay child support, usually up to 30 to 40% of his income.
A lot more than it costs to raise them. I'll guarantee you that because I've had to do that.
Yeah. And so now the father is impoverished because he has to pay the ex-wife or the mom for the kids. So he can't live prosperly. And then, like I said, when the mom has toddlers, she can't work. So she's going to be impoverished. And, a lot of people don't understand that these days that, before you have kids, really plan it out. Don't just spur the moment or have a whoopsie and bring a kid up in that environment. And a lot of people don't understand that these days.
Well, you talk about family and raising kids. Let's talk about this one here. Let's talk about this daycare. It's a $30 billion a year industry now, and it's projected by 2030 to be I think like a 70 or $80 billion a year. Who's raising the kids? And what message does that send to your kids when you put them off to daycare, when you got this big house, 2 Escalades in the driveway, a boathouse down at the lake or whatever, and so much stuff that you got to go put it in a storage shed? We got all these storage sheds around here. I used to think they were for people moving. No, people have too much stuff. So you're telling that kid that this is more important than you. So your kids grow up disrespecting the parents because the parents are really not respecting the life of the child. But now the excuse is this: well, I have to work. I don't think so. I grew up in a normal neighborhood, middle class, 2 bedroom houses, and that's all everybody else had. And the doctors and the lawyers in town, they had 3 or 4 bedroom houses, which are nothing compared to what these people are building now. And then they have kids and they both work, and then their kids are in daycare all day long. What is the message sending that to the kids? And there's not a woman out there that I believe that would tell you, maybe less than 1%, that, okay, somebody in daycare can raise my children better than I can. So where are we going with all that? And I think that is part of the problem right there also.
Yeah, no, I think that's interesting. I like how you said that, because I think you're absolutely right. It's like putting money and time into things for yourself instead of for the children. And why are you even having children to begin with?
I realize there are people, women that have to work because the man left them, or he died, or whatever happened. But more times than that, they're doing it because they want more money or more stuff. So I mean, I grew up. My mom was at home till I was about 5. So I went to school, and then she went work second shift, so she was home during the day. But I always had my grandma. I had some family structure. But now these kids, and what are they learning from these people's daycare? What are their little sponge minds sucking up there? I don't imagine it's what the parents would. I'm sure it's not what the parents would want them. Well, who knows? But it's different from what the parents would be, because we're all different people. So that's kind of a pet peeve with me, because I mean, I don't need a woman's money. If she's with me, I've been married before than once, and they didn't have to work. They don't need to work. And if you're a man, if you don't have kids and she wants to work, of course, she don't want to sit around the house. That's one thing. But if you got kids, them kids need their mother at home, and dad needs to support the household. And I also hear about people, well, I live here and I can't make it on 150,000 a year. I can't make it on this. Well, why don't you downsize? I don't go out and eat every night. I don't. Yeah, I mean, I eat peanut butter sandwiches at lunch for I don't know how many years. I love peanut butter, extra crunchy. But the point I'm making is, we're so used to comforts and pleasures here. These people don't know how to deny themselves, and that's obvious by look at the fitness of our nation. I mean, you got to seek out adversity here. You got to seek out discomfort if you want to be different and rise above the rest. I take a cold shower every morning just to be a little uncomfortable. I don't like it, but I do it. And other things I do, because men need adversity. Okay, and if you're going to be an example for your kids, and women too, my daughter, she wants to find a man like her brothers, and like myself. She wants to find a man that's a man that takes charge, a man that's going to lead, a man that's going to do what he's got to do. And that's hard for her to find a guy. She's going with a guy now. I think they're going to get married. He's in the service, been there for quite a while. Now he's got a job. He's a welder working. He's got to go off to Japan for the service. But he's a rare find. Half these guys are crying on his shoulder and don't leave me, and they want a mommy. They do. They want a mommy. So I've seen on both ends and for the boys, it's hard for them to find a girl that hasn't been, I'll say it nicely, with a lot of guys.
Yeah.
And that's when they were younger too. I'm talking before they were 16, 17 years old. So it's difficult for both my sons and my daughter to find decent boyfriend, girlfriends. I'll say it that way.
I kind of think of it like this way, and I think that this is why we've had such a problem. So when we look at the two roles, the man, the father, he is setting the direction, the course of the ship. and then the women are kind of creating the experience along the way, if that makes sense. And what I'm saying with that really is that when they don't have the proper course set, then they don't know how to they don't know what's real or what's not. They don't know some of the binaries that do need to be known. And so that's why with culture and with fatherless homes, we've landed in a place where yeah, we like every guy nowadays almost seems to be like one of those like silly emo kids that you think about, like the basic stereotype where they're all emotional, they're not strong-willed, they're not like the football player. You don't have to be the football player to be successful, but
Right.
without that dynamic there, they're not getting that structure. And so then these guys then wonder why them being so emotional, being so open is not getting them anywhere.
Yeah,
And it's not getting them anywhere. And then they end up in red pill or then black pill or then something like that, because they don't get it. They don't know what to do because they don't have that father who's supposed to be leading and directing where that ship is going to go.
Yeah, they don't know. They watch TV, and the advice they get there on these shows where the man, well, you see how many times the woman's leading, and that's why it's TV, because it's not reality, and it makes for good to watch. But yeah, a lot of my son's friends, they don't have a clue how to. They get on Facebook and they break up with a girlfriend. They're pouring out their feelings. It's like a woman, and then this whole push about being vulnerable. People need to look up the meanings of these words, it means to be susceptible to attack. To be vulnerable is they've taken that word and just mutilated it like they have so many words. A man does not need to be vulnerable with anybody. Now, you can have your buddy, go share things with your buddy. Your woman doesn't want you to come home. Let's say you lost your job. Okay. You don't need to come home and cry to her and say, I don't know what I'm going to do. It was the best job. I don't know where I'm going to get another job. You don't need to lay that off on her and your kids. Go tell your best friend, come home and tell your wife, look, I lost my job today, but everything's going to be okay. Even if you don't feel like it is, because she needs you to be strong. But this movement out here now is, well, you're equal partners and you need to share all those things. She can't handle that. She's not made for that. Does that mean she's less than a man? No. We're not equal in many respects. We may be equal in the eyes of God, but not in certain things. And that's the whole push of whoever's agenda it is, that we're the same. Look up that word. The same means it means the same. It's like we're not the
Equal.
same. It means equal. Equal means the same. Same means equal. Yeah, it doesn't mean that. Yeah, we're not. We're different. We each have our good characteristics, our traits. Women are much more nurturing. They have more intuition. Usually, they're more in touch with that. If you're with a woman, you've been together a while, and you're doing a business deal, and she says something don't feel right about this, you better listen to her, because she can pick up things that men usually can't pick up. That's a wonderful trait. Most men don't have that, and men can do things. I'll never have a baby. That's okay with me. All right. And she'll never be able to fight like I can. But that doesn't mean she's less or I'm less or better or either one. See, I don't know where they, use some logic here. That's what we need to do. Some common sense.
Yeah. Embracing the gender differences is something that's a foreign concept to people nowadays. And you brought up a really good point, Mark, about the meaning of vulnerability and being vulnerable. It's portrayed of, if a girl wants me to be vulnerable, that means she wants me to cry and talk about my feelings and what upsets me. But the moment I do that, I lose respect in her eyes, because, like it or not, that's one thing that you won't be able to change about men and women. When she sees you crying and pouring out your heart, that's a sign of weakness.
Yeah, and she's not going to feel safe with you.
Yeah, she's not going to feel safe. But the book Models by Dr. Green he broke it down. Vulnerability for a man is being able to tell your wants and needs without fear of reprisal. If you require this from a relationship or you want this out of a relationship, be honest and be truthful. And that's the way a man can be vulnerable. laying it out honestly instead of playing this, you know, romance game of saying what you think she wants to hear,
Right.
or, you know, playing, you know, just trying to get in her, you know, being vulnerable is different between men and women. You know, if you want to, you know, if she wants to be vulnerable and cry on your shoulder, a man's never going to look at that as a weakness unless it's over some stupid shit. But if she wants to do that, she can do that with her friends or her father or what. But being vulnerable is not what it's the modern day definition of, is crying and sharing your feelings, sharing your fears, all that kind of shit. That's not the way it should be interpreted, but unfortunately that's the way it is. And I remember growing up, you know, because I was married, high school sweethearts, and I remember going over to her house with her parents, great people. But I remember the dad always, you know, right in front of me, and I didn't really get it at the time, was, you know, you need to get an education so you can get a job, so you don't need a man. And he would say that to her, you know, and that's basically what she did, which, I mean, good on her. She was an x-ray tech. I was a young guy in the military. We were doing great until things weren't. But I look back on those types of instances, and I can kind of see why society has become the way it has when it comes to relationships. You know, because when women get educated and they get a job and they're working, they don't need a man. They don't really know how to portray the gender roles that it has been for centuries, thousands of years.
Right.
The man provides, the man protects, the woman takes care of the household. The woman, you know, basically is the caretaker of the family. But nowadays it's not like that. And it sucks because, you know, men are raised, I know I was, men are raised on how you're supposed to treat women. And nowadays women are raised only to what expect from a man, not how to treat a man. And that's doing them a disservice.
Yes.
When it comes down to, because all women, or most women, I shouldn't say all, are going to hit that time in their life where they want to have a partner, they want to have a family. But if they've only been taught what to expect from a man and what they're entitled to, then they're not going to be able to be a good partner for a man that wants to have that traditional type of relationship. And it goes both ways as well. A man that is raised by just a mother or without a masculine figure in his life, he's only going to be taught what the mom wants him to know about treating a woman, and not knowing what his roles are as the leader in the family. And that's where a lot of the disconnect comes in raising the children, even if it's in a 2-parent household, when the mom's not really being the caregiver and the dad's not really being the protector and the provider, because he wasn't taught that and she wasn't taught that. And that's the beginning of the breakdown of society nowadays in raising the kids.
Yeah, the family is the nucleus of the country. You know, a news flash here. Here's a news flash. Men and women need each other. I see a lot of men out there acting like they don't need. Well, guess what? Humanity will not survive. We do need each other. Yes. Contrary to what the men that are angry at women because they don't know how to deal with women, and contrary to the women who don't know how to deal with the men, you know, I don't need a man. Men have created systems and structures to give women we created an illusion that women don't need men in the Western world. Now you get in other parts of the world. I've traveled a lot around the world. It's not like that. It's mostly the Western culture. You get other countries and these women realize they need men to survive, or at least have a halfway decent life. Now, the women here will tell, well, that's terrible that they have to live like that. Is that terrible that we've lived like that for thousands of years? This way we're going now is like the end of, at least the end of Western civilization. The ones of us that we're just not. I think we're not breeding as much as we were here, or something. They're predicting a lower.
Yeah, it's shooting down heavy. It's absolutely crazy, like what's been changing. But
at least our Christian culture over here, I think, is in the West here, and maybe in other parts, I'm not sure, but that's kind of what I heard. And I get it, because it's dangerous in our country here for a man to get married. I mean, it's really like, you know, I've been married too, and here's what happens. I don't care how bad you want to stay married, which I did. If she doesn't want to stay married, the courts have given her so much power. regardless of whether you're a good husband or a good father. I was told that by one of them. She said, I can't live this kind of life. Now, years later, she wishes she would have stayed with me, and I could have had her back. Two of them actually said basically the same thing. But once they went out and did what they did, I didn't want to be back with them again. There was no trust. I don't think they ever respect you again if they go out and, you know, run around on you. But it's just, women are emotional beings, and I love them for that. The problem is with the court's involvement, they make emotional decisions, and I've seen this happen. I've seen them throw their husband in jail, not me particularly, and the next day they're trying to get him out because they were angry and mad. They're down there trying to get him out.
I just was upset at the moment. I was just was upset.
It's getting better though. It's getting better. The police are actually taking some of the women to jail now because I've seen women hitting men. So it's changing a little bit here. So that's good. It used to not be like that. But in our state here, if they go to a house on a domestic, one of the people have to leave. And usually it's the man, because the woman, contrary to what they want to say, they're equal and they're strong and they're independent. They don't want to put the woman out of the house, but they'll do it to the man because they know he'll make it okay. So it's really contradictory how they push the feminist movement side, and then yet when it comes to family and in court, they're weak and they can't take care of themselves. Here's my idea. If you want the kids, take care of them yourself. I never got child support or anything from my ex. I don't want anything from her. I don't need anything from her. The kids needed something from her that they weren't able to get from her for reasons I won't go into, but I didn't need anything from her. So if you can't raise the kids, which most women can't without either state help or the father taking most of his paycheck. So, I mean, it's just, the court is just, I've heard there's a divorce corp. Have you ever heard of that? It's almost like a business, they say. I'm not sure. I didn't delve into that, but yeah, but it is, I suppose. It's like, what's it cost here? 35 or 40 bucks to get married, but a heck of a lot more to get divorced, even if both agree and just want an amicable divorce. So why is that? I don't know, but it's the breakdown of the family.
Yeah, it's a big business, you know. And we did a show, and I think it might have been the last one we did, Mark, maybe about a year ago, when we were talking about toxic family members. And, you know, we had a statistic there that, you know, 75% of divorces are initiated by women.
Yeah, because it looks favorable for them. Yeah.
Yeah, with a no-fault divorce. Basically, you know, the biggest thing is irreconcilable differences. That's why that was the reason I got divorced. I don't even know what those differences were that were unreconcilable. You know, I was halfway on the other side of the world when we had the irreconcilable differences. You know, come to find out, the irreconcilable differences was the other man she was dating. I guess because we were different. But you know, I mean, I'm not going to go down that because, you know, they're married, they have a family now. It's not like she was out sleeping with half the county that I know of. But when they make it so easy to just end the marriage, you know, death do us part doesn't exist anymore. I've even seen couples where they say till love do us part. I mean, that's just saying, okay, yeah, when we're mad, we're going to get a divorce. But you talk, my grandparents, divorce was not in their vocabulary.
Yeah,
you know,
used to be a shameful thing. Yeah.
Yeah, now it's just like just breaking up with, you know, someone in
your girlfriend.
You know, and we got a divorce. And, you know, and not just to bash women, but I saw a really good meme the other day. It said a man will give up his happiness to save his family. A woman will give up her family to save her happiness.
That's true, but they're kind of programmed. They're pushed to do that. You know, are you happy? What's happy? I'm not always happy, but I'm fulfilled when I'm doing the right thing. And I don't know how women do it, but it's like a lot of times keeping your commitment, whether it's in marriage, business, or whatever it happens to be, is not easy. I don't feel like doing it, but feelings have nothing to do with it. When I do it and I stick it out, then I get a feeling of fulfillment from it. You know, do the hard things. It's not, and women have, not all women, but a lot of them have gotten to where if they don't feel it. Look, the honeymoon stage wears off about 6 months after you're married. Then you find out if you really love that person or not. Okay, did I always feel like, we'll talk about feelings. Did I always feel like I loved my kids when I was yelling at them to get up to go to school and they don't want to? No. Did I always feel like I loved them when I had to take them somewhere for some ball game or something? No, I don't want to do that. So what is it? To me, love is an action. Although I stated this one time on somewhere on social media, and somebody's like, "I feel sorry for your kids." My kids know I love them. They know I love them by what I've done for them, and I tell them I love them. But I don't always feel like I love them. They probably don't always feel like they love me either. I'm sure they didn't feel like they love me when they're getting up my face and doing things. Probably my son, he snuck out with the car last night, 16, and I took his privileges away for all driving. I wouldn't even let him go to the gym. He had to go with somebody else. He probably don't feel like he loved me when I told him that either. But that's love taking the action of protecting him from screwing himself up. You don't need to be sneaking out here at midnight and going to meeting a girl somewhere.
Yeah.
But I get it. I know why he does it. I'd do the same thing. I was
Yeah.
out of the house by the time I was
I'm like,
16.
hold on. You've
But the
been a
point
hypocrite.
is,
I know you would do it.
the point I'm making is when the feeling wears off, that's when the real love starts.
Mm.
You get up in the morning, you look at your wife, and I've done it. God, I wish I wasn't married. Or I felt like I want to be with somebody else. But I know these feelings pass. So I take the action. I do what I'm supposed to do as a husband. I do whatever I need to do as a husband and tell her I love her and go on. Because I know I love her. I don't feel like it though. And that's where we're so much into feelings now. And feelings are good and they're important and we should listen to our emotions. But we can't let our life be run by emotions. But as women get more and more power and they're more influencing, they're emotional beings. So they're wanting things to be, more life to be guided or things to be done by emotions instead of logic, and which men are more logical. There's a good blend of a mix of both of those in there somewhere, but I think we're a little bit too much on the feeling. I feel like this is what I am, so this is what I am. No, you're not that. You're a man. So I won't go down that one either. But
Yeah.
No,
I know
no,
I know we're
I
on YouTube, so I got to be careful what I say.
well, and men and women both are equally in being guilty of this and thinking that your happiness is the responsibility of your wife or your partner. And that's not the
Yeah,
case. Nobody else is responsible for your
true.
happiness. You are. And
Right.
men and women are both guilty, especially in today's society when we have such emotional men that really are not emotionally intelligent, but they think that, okay, since I'm not happy, it's their fault. They're responsible for this. But, and yeah, there's some actions that can make you unhappy that they do, or vice versa. But
Right.
at the end of the day, you're responsible for your happiness and you're responsible for your own emotions. And trying to put that on somebody else or use that as an excuse to, break up the family or, get a divorce or, even hurt that someone, hurt your partner. That's where the disconnect with nowadays compared to, our families, our parents or our grandparents, that's where their disconnect has come in. And
Right.
like I said, men and women are both guilty of that these days. But, going back to the divorce thing, I don't know the statistic, but I probably want to look this up, is people or young people, kids that were raised in a split household, what are the statistics or what's the likelihood that they will not have a successful marriage? And I'm sure it's a lot higher than
Yeah.
kids that were raised in a two-parent household with,
It is higher. I don't know what it is either though, but I've seen it before.
yeah, and I have to think that contributes to the downfall of the nuclear family here, especially here in the West.
Right. I agree.
Yeah, I don't know if we lost Alex or if he just had to
Oh, I
step
don't know.
aside. But no, I mean that's a great conversation to have, and I think a lot of it, especially when kids are involved, is the power dynamics shift in a way that they're not supposed to. I still look at it as, in a nuclear family, when you have kids, of course, God comes first, then the relationship, then the
Right.
kids. And a
Yeah.
lot of people,
Yeah.
and not just to say women only do this, but you see on dating sites, right? Or you talk to women that have kids. My kids will
Yeah.
always come first.
I know. And and I agree. I get that. I get that to a certain degree, but you don't need to say that. I mean, for example, yeah, I have a peeve about that also. Let's say you go out with a woman, and of course, we're out on a date and the kids get sick. Well, yeah, of course she's going to go home. That's
Yeah.
fine. But to say your kids come first is to say you're never going to be a priority in my life, basically above my kids. And if
Mhm.
you're not, then you just well walk away then.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because a
Well,
man,
that's why I'm a
yeah,
big proponent to not get involved with single moms, especially with toddlers or, under the age of 10, because, and it's especially if there's still drama with the father
right.
or the mother,
Yeah,
that's something I won't deal with. Okay. Now, look, I can understand especially at first, saying the kids will come first. Yeah, of course, their safety and their well-being should. Even in the nuclear family, it should. But how do you expect me to make you my number one priority when I know I will never be yours?
right.
And when you say that to a woman, especially a single mom, well, only single moms, they really can't comprehend that. But it's more detrimental if you do it in the nuclear family with the mom and the dad in a marriage, putting the kids before the relationship, because those kids are going to grow up. Those kids are going to go out and live their own life at some point, and maybe even only talk once or twice a month. Well, okay, well, we've put the kids first. We've neglected each other and the relationship. How do you put that back together at that point?
Right. And I'll tell you what else, them kids will wedge in between you too. Your own kids will. They just do it. It's not like they're maliciously doing it, but they will wedge in between. They'll go ask dad and you don't get the right answer. They'll go ask mom. They'll try to play you against each other. And if either one of you is putting the kids first, then that's going to be a big problem. But if you're not and you're working together, then it won't be such a problem. But they
Mhm.
will try to play you against each other. Kids do that to get what
Oh
they
yeah,
want.
I was guilty of that. Go to ask my dad if I could spend the night at somebody's house.
Yeah.
Well, mom said it was okay with her if it was okay with you, and she never said that. But then he was like, "Well, okay." Then I'd go tell mom. Well, dad
Yeah.
said if it was okay with him, it was okay with you. Yeah. But that's why it's so important. Like, if you love each other enough to get married, have kids, the relationship between the mom and dad, your wife or your husband, that comes first.
Yeah.
Now, it doesn't come above the security and well-being of the kids, but the happiness of the kids, the emotional state of the kids, yeah, it does. Your relationship always comes before that. And you see the memes or see online, "Oh, my kids have been climbing all over me all day. When my husband gets home, I don't want to touch him," and it becomes a sexless marriage and a
Yeah.
dead
That's
bedroom. But okay, you won't tell your kids no from climbing all over you, touching you, all that kind of stuff all day, but you will tell your husband.
yeah,
And
it's amazing.
it could
Yeah, it's
work both ways
amazing.
too. It could
Yeah.
be the dad could say that, "Man, I've been dealing
Yeah.
with these kids all day, baby. I just want to sleep, you know, in the spare bedroom by myself." I mean, that's the beginning of the end, if you ask me.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a contract when you get married, but the man has to fulfill his end, even if the woman doesn't. That's what, you know, she can deny him, but he can't deny support. He can't deny perfection. He can't deny provision, but she can deny him. And I know men that have been married for years and not had been able to be with their wife. I
Yeah.
mean, that's pretty rough.
It's just crazy. That doesn't even make sense to me because that's just I wouldn't even do it anymore. But yeah, you're right. There's so
Well,
many
but they
men
get
out there
But
with
you know what
that.
happens? They get so tied in financially, they got the home that they're going to be living in a single wide 1970 trailer trying to make scrape by if they got two or three kids and a house. Now, we don't have alimony here, but some states have been married past 10 years. They got lifetime alimony, which is just, to me, is completely uncalled for.
Mhm.
Um, and like you said, the woman 99% of the time. The only reason I have my kids is because my wife was from another country and she wanted to run and gun, and so she would come and go here. And finally, she went back and then come back, so I was able to get custody of my kids. Otherwise, I wouldn't have, because I'd had kids from a previous marriage, and yeah, I went through all kinds of yeah uh, stuff, lost, yeah, and you know how it is.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
won't even go into that. Anybody who's experienced has a good idea what that was like. So um, I was very fortunate and worked out great for me, and I give God the credit for that because I didn't do it. It just played out that way, and I just did what was in front of me, and it worked out good for all of us, and the kids even. The last time I brought her up here, my oldest son was he was so angry with me because he knew it was going to be the same as it was before, but I was hoping it wouldn't be. He knew better than I, and so they're glad too that she never came. Nothing against her. She got her path to go down, but it just worked out best for all of us. Even though that wasn't what I really wanted, what I felt like I wanted at the time. Emotionally, I wanted to have more kids, and I wanted us to stay together because we were together for 12 years. But God had a different plan. And I went with it. And it's a hell of a lot better than mine. So that's all I can say about that.
Yeah, you
And
know,
I
one
think
thing that
with,
I'm fortunate enough, real quick, Alex, is that we didn't have kids. You know, we got married young, but I thank God that we never had children, that we had to, for one, grow up in a split household, but then to still have to have somewhat of communication. Not that I hate her or anything like that, but I mean, I think it's best when you divorce to, you know, we're not going to be friends. You know, the way I look at it is my DNA is inside you. We're not going to go back to being friends. I mean, that's just how that works. But, and then my divorce too, I got pretty much scot-free. I got everything, house, boat, all the marital assets. I got all the debt that came along with it. But I see some of my friends that get divorced and they just get raked through the coals. And you know, but I didn't want it either. Like you said, Mark, I would have fought for my marriage, but now that it's done, over, it's been, you know, over a decade ago.
Right.
I wouldn't have it any other way now.
Right.
You know, I couldn't imagine still being married to her, you know, since life has moved on. Like I said, I'm not just beating her up, but now I look at my life and what I have now. I would never be where I'm at right now if me and her would have stayed together. But like you said, I didn't want it. And that's something that most guys do. They don't want to get a divorce. They want to fight for it. But then once it's all said and done, you realize it was for the best.
Yeah, same here. I have a wonderful life now. And for anybody out there that's going through a divorce and you're losing everything, I lost everything, almost my freedom. I came back here from Central America. I had to leave my kids there too, and came back up here, and I had to take care of my dad, and I had some other things I had to deal with up here, which worked out. But hell, I guess probably 12 years ago, I was on welfare because I had to take care of my dad and I couldn't work, and I was taking care of my 6 kids. And if you'd have told me 10 or any time before that I'd be on welfare, I'd say there's no way in hell I'd never be on welfare. But I was, and I was glad to get it because I couldn't work because I had to take care of my dad. So I cared for him for 4 years till he passed. And then I was able to start my business back up in 2012. And so now it's a partnership with my sons, and we have a good time at work. I love what I do. And I don't believe I ever would have had that had I got what I thought I wanted along. I'm sure I wouldn't have. So God had a better plan for me than I had for myself. So if you're going through this, anybody out there, if you just do the right thing, don't get into the negativity and the things maybe that your ex is doing to you, because I was accused of all kinds of things that I didn't do, and crimes, against just a lot of stuff. But I got it all got cleared up and it all worked out good in the end because I did the right thing, and it wasn't easy. I didn't always do it perfectly, but I did it even though they weren't doing the right thing. So if you just hang in there and just put one foot in front of another, it'll be over someday, and just know that it can get better. You can get through it, and it'll all work out. It'll work out for you. It will, just because a lot of guys want to bite the bullet. And I know that feeling too during those types of things. You're losing everything. It's like, it's not so much the wife, you're losing the dream you had. I had a dream of having 15 kids, and that's what's hard, the dream. So I just encourage anybody to keep just hang in there and find a support group or some people to help you, some other men to talk to.
Well, that brings up a great subject. Here at the Men of Now, that's what we are. We're closed for enrollment as of right now, but however, we plan to open up enrollment here in the next future. What do we say? It's maybe a month. And if you need a tribe of men that is not only like-minded, but has been there, done that, and is ready to help you move on, whether it be loss of a job, divorce, or you just need some good guys to be able to call your friends and get good advice from, and guys that are going to tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear, keep us in mind.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's fantastic, some of the stuff that we've been doing. I mean, Heck, like even our involvement with Thor's fundraiser this past weekend, where we raised over $18,000.
Yeah, you guys are doing a great job on that.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm so happy for Thor. I know it's been a tough time,
I
but
can't imagine. I can only imagine it. That's
yeah, it's been something else. But you like by being a part of communities like this, and especially with the Men of Now, it's like you get information like this. You get some of the discussions and the caliber of people like Mark. Like Mark, you truly are. You're incredibly admirable to me. You are the ideal of kind of what I'm looking for when it comes to my family, because I do want to have a lot of kids, and your level of stoicism and able to just manage everything. I mean, heck, 6 kids all at once. It's a lot. It's a lot. And even with that, you're still doing so much other stuff. Like that's who I want to be. I want to be the best possible. But the only way I can be the best possible is to surround myself with the best possible. And that's, again, too, what we're doing with Thrive in 2025, this entire series. It's bringing on people that can give some different perspectives towards kind of where you want to shoot your life. And once you kind of get those things down and then you keep focusing on it, it just becomes an explosion in success and happiness and the quality of people that you have in your life. And it truly is a beautiful thing. It truly is a beautiful thing. So with that, we have been going on for a while. This has been a fantastic discussion. Mark, we got to have you on again sometime soon. Sure. You always just lend such great advice. But I want to hand it to you on where people can find you, what you're up to, any final thoughts that you may have on this topic of discussion.
Well, I'll just go back to what I said first. More truth is caught than taught. Just be the man that you want your kids to be, your sons to be, and be the man you want your daughter to marry. That's really, it's just as simple as that. Trust God, and do the right thing. And whatever that means to you, I'm not a religious guy, so that everybody's got their own conception there. I'm not trying to tell you what to believe there. But you can find me at Marksinspiration on YouTube or on Instagram or TikTok, either one. And I'll plug my book. I have 2 books on Amazon: Coming Back Home, The True Adventure of Mark Daniels, and The Power Is Within. And then I'm writing another book for Thor. As they're putting something together. Huds can say more about that. I'm not quite sure what the deal is, but I'm just doing my part that they asked me to do. And it's a pleasure being here. And I encourage all of you to shoot for your dreams. Shoot for the stars or shoot for the moon. If you miss, you might hit one of the stars.
Stars can be hard. They're a little bit further away, but at least shoot for the moon. I love that. And to share what's going on with Thor's series. So Thor is a very good friend of ours. His wife got into a freak car accident, completely not her fault, and she became a paraplegic. Shortly thereafter, after becoming a paraplegic, he got stage 4 brain cancer. And for those who know what the stages are, that's terminal. And so it's been a nightmare for him. We did a fundraiser this past weekend, and we were able to raise a good amount to try and take care of some of the long-term care that's necessary. But as part of his legacy, we have created what is the essential skills of a dominant masculine presence. So we have a bunch of them here. This is the original. We got my good friend AJ's. This is on emotion, and so emotional durability. We have Paul's here, which is on understanding paradigms and like why we are thinking the way that we are. Wraith has a fantastic book as well. We just released Thor's second book, which is The Superhero Inside. I love it. And it's all about cultivating that superhero inside and becoming a master and a champion in your own life. And then AJ actually has a second book coming out, as well as Mark's ready with his book. Super excited about. And there's one more that's escaping my head right now. No, Glenn has one as well. I actually have 3 in the works. It's an entire collection. This series is fantastic because it's supposed to take you from A to Z on how to live with a dominant masculine presence and be the leader of your own life. Because truly, once you become the leader of your own life, anything is possible. And it really is wild when you get there. And so we're trying to capture each and every single piece of that information so that when you tap into this, you can fill any gaps or just start the journey however you want to. So that's been very exciting. So stay tuned for more of that information. Kevin, do you have anything else?
I think we covered it all. Once again, Mark, I want to thank you. Love doing shows with you. You're a wealth of knowledge and a great example for not only your kids to follow, but men like myself. And want to wish you the best. And hopefully everything with the house gets done. We didn't get to cover that, but if you didn't know, Mark is redoing a historic home beautifully. And I couldn't even imagine making it as nice as he has. And he's doing that with his boys. So, I mean, that's gotta be great to every time you walk out of there to knowing me and my sons did this, so, keep doing what you're doing, Mark. I think we covered pretty much everything. My final thoughts is, when raising kids or just being a man in today's society, don't fall into the traps. Most men know what men are supposed to do, but if you fall off the rails, don't be afraid to reach out and talk to somebody, especially myself, Mark, Alex, Josh, who couldn't be here today. Our main focus in life nowadays is to not only help each other and grow independently, but to help other men grow as well. And I want to say, never stop improving, never stop thriving, never stop wanting more, because the moment you stop, that's when life passes you by.
It's very well said. It's very well said. Well, with that, thank you, everybody. This was an absolutely fantastic discussion. As I said before, go ahead and comment down below. I mean, obviously make sure to like, comment, subscribe. But that comment, I want to hear what you guys want. I want to hear what you guys want on topics or potentially future guests, because we just want to provide value. That's really, I was talking with my buddy the other day, and he kind of came to the same conclusion that I did. And I've lived life to the point that I want to live it. Now I don't know what's next. And I think I've found what's next outside of having children, which is one of our next steps. But it's just continuing to help deliver information and improve other people's lives. So whatever you guys really want us to dive into, definitely let us know. I appreciate you, Clayton, for commenting that. And we'll see if we can work something out. But until next time, guys, peace out and thank you.